Hello there. Welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I'm working on a die cut birthday card. So get comfy and let's get crafty. I went back to Clean & Company's website because you know how I'm loving their things, and I purchased not a kit this time, but a Retro Foundations dice, or a set. It's a stamp and die set. And the die set has all these really cool shapes. They're all stitched, well, most of them are stitched. And it also comes with a stamp set, and it has some really large format or large print sentiments with some smaller scripty sentiments to go with it. So I am going to choose a couple of these signpost pieces and create a birthday card. I'm going to use my favorite things, pattern paper. I've chosen kind of this aqua colored card base and a pattern paper that matches it. It's kind of a little bit retro pattern, and then I have some cardstock pieces to make my die cuts with. So now that I've taken and selected everything that I want to use on this card, I did cut a couple of extras just in case. We're going to stamp first because I want to stamp my sentiments on these sign or die cut pieces. So I'm going to take my MISTI out, but I'm going to use my MISTI, but leave the sticky mat in it. And I have this kind of lopsided piece, this kind of bow tie shaped piece, and they're both out of that yellow cardstock. And the first stamp set I want to put on the top of that yellow piece is a scripty one that reads, "Just when we thought you couldn't get any ... right? And I want it at the top here. And then I'm going to add another one of the bolder stamp sets, stamps. Sorry, you get to see the top of my head there. I'm going to add the word cooler on there, but I'm going to do them one at a time so that I can squeeze them right together. So I'm going to pick that up with my MISTI lid, and then I'm going to prep the piece with my anti-static powder tool. This is the Rabbit Hole Designs powder tool. And then I will ink up my stamp with some Simon Says Stamp white pigment ink. And I'm going to stamp it twice. I haven't used these stamps yet. Like, I got them in the mail, and like less than a week later, I was making stuff with them because I love them. So I will stamp the stamp twice. And after I have stamped the top sentiment on, we will go ahead and clean off that stamp and then add the next part of the sentiment, which is the word cooler. And so the sentiment on this block will read, "Just when we thought you couldn't get any cooler." And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stamp that with the white pigment ink. I'll stamp it twice as well because it is a big bold stamp. I did go rub over it with my microfiber cloth this time to see if I could get a little bit better of a first time impression. Because it is a bold stamp and because I'm heat embossing it, it's not the smoothest stamping. I will admit that right now. But I don't hate how the stamping turned out, even though it wasn't super smooth. And I don't know if it was not smooth because I used a white pigment ink that maybe was a little bit like air pockety, or if it wasn't smooth because it was a bold stamp. You know, would it be bolder if I used a Versamark ink? I don't know. So before this ink dries, I'm going to go ahead and stick this piece into my white embossing powder. I'm using, this bin has Brutus Monroe embossing powder in it right now. And then I'm going to use another stamp. Now this stamp actually says Happy Father's Day. I'm only going to use the happy part. I'm going to put a Post-it note over the words that say Father's Day so that I can ink up just the big, bold, happy part. So I'm going to stick that Post-it note down. This is selective stamping, just in case you were wondering how that worked. And we're going to ink that up with the pigment ink again. I rub my finger over it to kind of condition it a little bit and remove the Post-it note. Always remove the Post-it note before you stamp. I did get a little bit of wayward ink there, but I cleaned it off really easy. I did decide I wanted to stamp it again. I did not put my Post-it back down. So then I had to take a baby wipe carefully and clean it off, and you get to see my hair again. Good thing it was a good hair day. I had just come back from my hair lady that does my hair, and so my roots were looking fantastic and my flyaways were laying down. Underneath happy, I'm going to use the stamp that says happy, or it says happy birthday. So the whole piece will say happy birthday. And those two sentiments don't really go together. Just when we thought you couldn't get any cooler, happy, happy birthday, they kind of sort of flow, but I did have another little thing in mind. So after I stick this piece through the embossing powder in my container, and kind of tap that off a little bit, I will pull out another die cut shape. And this one is just kind of a trapezoidal, little tiny skinny turquoise piece. And I'm going to put it onto my sticky mat here. And the stamp I'm going to use this time, it says "You Level Up," which is kind of, perfect if your person you're sending the card to is a video gamer or a sports player or something like that. It would be kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and I prep that cardstock with my anti-static powder tool, and then I put the stamp on it. So then I did it again, just for safety's sake. And we're going to go ahead and stamp that up also with the white pigment ink. I could have made this another ink color, just like a gray or something, and then stamped with clear embossing powder, but I just went with the white again. So once we have that all stamped, we're going to go ahead and stick it in the embossing powder, and then I'm going to clean everything off my desk and heat set them. It can sometimes be hard to tell when your embossing powder is completely melted. It gets shiny when it's done, so sometimes you have to hold it in a different light. And if there's any parts that are dull or look not quite as bright, then they need a little bit more heat. The longer your heat gun has been on, the faster it will melt that embossing powder. Like by this third little piece, we just kind of zoomed right through it. The thicker fonts are harder to get a really crisp, clean heat set on. So the next part of our card, we're going to create our card panel. I'm using my Lawn Fawn small stitch rectangle dies because the shape dies I'm using all are stitched. So I wanted to have that stitched border around our pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that into the plates of my Empress machine. Not exactly straight, but the die will be straight on the paper, but the paper will not be straight on my plates. Because I don't have any speed bump things when it goes through my die cut. I don't want to create that weird sound, and I don't want to ruin my die cut machine, right? Card base. It is 8.5 by 11, 8.25 by 11. There we go. And it's scored at 5.5 inches. And I've got stray embossing powder all over my desk, and now it's all over my paper, but whatever. Microfiber rag will clean that off. And I'm going to fold that in half, and then I will burnish that fold with a Teflon bone folder. When you're folding a top fold card that is like this, sometimes it's easier to get a clean fold when you score it first. It's always easier to get a clean fold when you score it first on thick cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and grab my ATG and put some double-sided adhesive on the back of this pattern paper, and then I will go ahead and center that onto our card base. I'm just using the lines on my work surface to kind of make sure things are straight, and then again we're eyeballing because if we measure, it's math, and we don't math. So I'm going to lay things down here. I kind of wanted it to be slightly off center. In my mind, it worked. In reality, some of the sign pieces are not exactly centered on the little pole. Because, it happens. So I decided to use just those 4 pieces. I will use my Bearly Arts glue on this little silver cardstock strip that is representing the sign pole. I could have done that with like a glimmer paper or even a metallic paper or even a black one, but I just went with the gray because there's no black on this at all, so I thought it would look a little weird. Now, once I had it glued down, I pulled out my Altenew roll of foam tape, and I'm going to be adding foam tape to the parts of the sign. This is when I realized that my little silver pole piece went farther to the left than it had when I laid it out originally. So it is slightly off center, but then the sign pieces have to be more on center to fit on our card panel. I don't even know. So we're going to kind of go through here and put little pieces of foam tape on the back of all of these sign pieces. And we're just going to make it work because I used liquid glue on that little gray signpost and it's not coming off without tearing. And at this point, I was like 99% of the way complete with my card, like all the hard stuff was done. I wasn't going to peel that off, cut a new piece of pattern paper, cut a new signpost. I was just going to make it work. I am a huge fan of the Tim Gunn phrase, make it work, and we just make it work all day long in my craft room. So you can kind of see that the sign is not centered. Now, that bottom piece that says happy, happy birthday, I did not push down hard because I think I'm going to have to raise it up a bit to lower the gap between where I put the little turquoise piece that says you leveled up and the bottom piece. I kind of wanted the you leveled up part to slide right slightly above the other yellow piece, and then I can place this one I can just move it up just a little bit. So there's not a huge gap there. Then I have all these other little pieces. I have an arrow that I cut out. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to it and add it to I don't know why I put glue on this side, the like curvy end, because it's not even going to touch the card base. It's kind of weird, but whatever. I did have to do a little manipulation there. I pulled it off and readjusted things. And I'm sticking some foam tape right under the tail end of that arrow. It's got those little holes punched in it that are kind of like the old light bulbs on those retro signs. So I have to be careful that my Zord adhesive, there we go, is not showing. I have cut out a bunch of these little sign stars. I did some in white, some in turquoise. My idea was to put a couple of those piles on and then add some of those kind of star squared. I don't know what those things, they probably have a real name, but they look like starred squares to me. They probably have another name. I decided to not put that second set of starburst on. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in the center of this turquoise one. I'm going to put it on the top of our signpost or our sign panel right there. And I'm going to kind of offset the white one so that it's not exactly stacked up right. But the little tines on it aren't exactly, they're not all spaced exactly the same. So it was a minute. The little starburst down here I'm going to offset as well. And then I'm going to pull in some little gems. Now, I found in one of my desk drawers a whole bunch of Stampin' Up, what are these called? Enamel dots that I hadn't even used. So I put them on my desk with my Honeybee and Altenew and Spellbinders, sticky dot thingies. So I would remember to use them all because these might be older than some of my children. I need to use them. So I'm using 2 yellow, one in that starburst and one down there in that squared star thingy. And then we're going to do the final step of adding that copy paper to the inside of the card base. You've been here before. You've heard me say I don't like writing inside the card with a gel pen or a white pen. And if you have a colored card base, that's the easiest way to make your little note shown. So I always put copy paper on the inside. And that's it. That is the whole card. I am in love with this Queen & Company Foundations die set. I think their stuff is it's just cool. Go check them out. I'll link them below. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a couple of other videos here I think you would like as well. I've also added that subscribe button. If you have not subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what your favorite retro color combination is. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and have a really fabulous day.